Hey everyone, Old School Pokemon here, back again for episode number 4 of our podcast with my co-host, Catch 'em All Collectibles, Dan. How are you doing tonight, Dan?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Excited to get into this. So we'll hop right into it since we do have a decent amount of questions for this episode, which is awesome. As with every episode, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we'll try and answer them in the following podcast, which will hopefully, if we keep up the schedule, be 2 weeks from this podcast. So if you want to, the first question was on your podcast or your channel. So if you want to read that one, you can.
Yeah, and also feel free to leave a comment with suggestions for future videos if you have any suggestions for a topic. But yeah, so on my channel, Celebi Collectibles asked, what are both your opinions on the Genamint program that PSA purchased to assist grading mechanically? It's probably too soon to say anything concrete about grades and accuracy until we get cards back that have been graded using this process. But what kind of impact do you think it could make? I believe they mentioned crack cases would be recognized, so no resubmitting 9s. Stolen cards also not being able to be regraded. Do you think that companies like CGC, BGS will have to follow, or do you think they might put emphasis on the human aspect more? I still think it's very early. Can't think of any concrete questions about it. Was just wondering on your opinion. And he went on to mention something about the 25,000 cards per week capacity that they currently have, and they have about a 2-year backlog given that. So I don't know about you, but I talked about this a little bit in one of my separate videos. I think it was in one of my PSA return videos. I think a lot of people are reacting really strongly to this news as if something monumental has already happened. As far as I'm aware, the company that they purchased, the technology is like very new and very unproven. Just so many cards, the amount of time it would take to build a database recognizing all the cards, the variants, and then one thing I always go back to is the AI or whatever it is, the computer program is going to have to be taught by giving it human graded baselines. This is what a 10 should look like. This is what a 9 is going to look like. So there's going to be some amount of, if there's any human error or bias, I think that you'd have a really hard time not baking that in to the AI program, because you're going to feed it references that it's going to learn from. And so I'm just going to wait and see what happens with it. It's not magically going to clear the backlog. And the one big thing, I think, if they're able to do that fingerprinting that they talked about to prevent regrades, presumably if they see a card that's been fingerprinted as a 9 and they just automatically give that a 9 or like scrutinize it a little bit more to prevent it getting a 10, that might have some effect. But I think there's a lot less cracking and regrading going on than there was years ago, just because of the turnaround times and the increased grading price. So kind of a lot of thoughts on that. I don't know what your thoughts are, Nick.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna be a matter of wait and see what happens there. I don't know too much about anything technology, so I think it's just, like I said, it's just gonna be a matter of wait and see. I would be curious. I'll be curious to know how strict AI grading will be compared to human grading, and if they can match AI grading to like human grading standards. Because how I think of it now is, I would imagine AI grading would be a lot tougher to get PSA 10 or CGC 10 or whatever company's using it. But if they can kind of make it so 10s aren't impossible with computer grading, then I can definitely see the advantages of it as well. I think it would definitely help clear out that backlog a lot quicker, because grading would occur a lot quicker versus having 2 or 3 people look at each card as it goes through the grading process and all that. Another point, I never thought of the, I know I read about the cards getting cracked out and resubmitting, which I agree with you. It doesn't. I don't think it happens too much anymore. Just with the price increases as well as the backlog that PSA has right now, I don't think people are cracking cards and resubmitting them, waiting a year or more to get the new results back.
Yeah.
But another thing, I didn't consider the fact of stolen cards and people cracking those out and resubmitting them, which that would be that's a good point right there. Although I don't know how smart these thieves are that are actually stealing the cards. I guess they got to be kind of smart to think to steal Pokemon cards, but I don't know if they're considering that fact. But I can see that being a good point right there. That could definitely help some people out if their collection did get stolen. PSA would kind of be able to put a red flag on that card. So that's a good point. I'd never thought about that one before.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for me it's just gonna be a wait and see what happens there. So the next question we have is Shiny Typhoon 96. What direction do you think the upcoming set Chilling Reign will bring with prices? For me personally, I think so. I just received my allocations for Chilling Reign the other day, maybe yesterday I think, and my allocation was so much worse than Battle Styles, meaning I received so much less product than I did with Battle Styles. So I think Chilling Reign is going to be an expensive set out of the gate, more so than Battle Styles was, because I think it's not just me that got allocated so heavily with this set. Plus, my distributor actually raised their prices for, I think it was just booster boxes. It used to be low 80s. They raised their prices to high 80s, which is our cost purchasing from distributors.
Mm.
So that's going to affect the bottom floor as well. So I do think Chilling Reigns is going to be a lot more popular and also more expensive than Battle Styles was. It also seems like a lot better of a set. I wasn't too big of a fan of Battle Styles myself, but there are a lot of good cards in Chilling Reign. I like the artwork of a lot of those cards, so I think it's going to be a really good set.
Yeah, I'll echo everything you said pretty much. I also got allocations yesterday. We talked about that. I think I'm resigned to the fact that this is what we have for this year. I don't think it's going to get any better for the 25th anniversary set. I am optimistic though going into next year. I did get a comment this morning from a coworker in my day job. He said that some of our local stores like Walmart, they've actually been having some product back in stock. So things are getting a little bit better. I think it was like Shining Fates, ETBs maybe. And you are seeing those have come down, not to retail, but closer. I think if we get to a place where ETBs return to closer to retail, and Battle Styles, I want to say they're still in the 50s, I think, which retail on non-specialty sets, I think retail is 40 on an ETB.
I was gonna say $39.99.
I think throughout this year, this is what it's going to be. To next year, I think we'll get to a healthier place where ETBs are very close to retail, and booster boxes will be closer to retail. I don't think we're ever going to get back, or at least not anytime soon, to $79.99 shipped on eBay, and that wasn't healthy in my opinion.
No.
I think if we get to a place where 100 to 120, that's still below retail of 140, whatever it is, and so not yet with Chilling Reign, but I'm optimistic on next year.
Yeah, one other point that you mentioned with the like Targets and Walmarts having modern product is, I actually have noticed that my local Target has had Shining Fates and Battle Styles on the shelves compared to the past couple months where they haven't had a single Pokemon product whatsoever. So we
Yeah.
are moving in the right direction. It's just gonna be a slow process. Personally, I cannot wait until we get back to a sense of normalcy, because I would much rather be able to receive what I want to receive within modern product and do what I want to do with it than make all this money off of a limited supply. My intention for this year was to kind of stock all the modern sets that came out in terms of single cards. So all the rares, uncommons, and commons. But with my allocation that I received with Chilling Reign, it's going to be a matter of just selling the boxes. I think. I don't think I'm going to be opening any of the packs myself, just because I hardly received any.
Yeah.
But next question we got is from In the Woods. Why did the high-end Pokemon collectors seem to disregard the TMB Trainer number 2 holo that was first seen on a Japanese television program back in 2019? Also believe that they printed a number 1 and number 3 for the winners. This means that those 3 cards are most likely one of one, making them far more rare than the illustrator. You want to take the lead on this one?
Yeah. So I was vaguely familiar with this when I first read it, but I did go back on E4 and found the thread. I rewatched the little clip that he's referencing, and so this is like those trainers with the face of the winner on it. Really obscure, one of one, presumably. I think they have like an archive where they print a copy of everything. So there's probably one in that vault or whatever too. To me, there's just not a huge appeal. One thing when you get so limited is that a lot of people don't really want someone else's face on a card. I say that, but then like the Ishihara GX just sold for some really high number, and supposedly I think there's more than 100 of those. I've heard a sheet's worth or something. So it's just a weird thing. It's like the illustrator too, kind of the comparison drawn to that. The illustrator is not the rarest card. It's consistently been the most expensive, but there's almost like a counterintuitive benefit, I think, to having a slightly higher amount of cards, that you're able to have transactions and you're able to build like a history of the card sold for 10,000 and then 20 and then 100 and hundreds. Whereas with one-off cards, you might never see a sale. And so as far as the specifics of high-end collectors disregarding it, I'm not really sure if there's like a specific video that's referencing or a specific comment, but to me personally, I kind of get why it's not like causing a huge commotion, because it might never transact, and if it does, it's just very, very extremely limited supply, but extremely limited demand too. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think the extremely limited supply hurts it, because for the people who aren't huge into Pokemon, they're not going to know about these one-off cards so much as they know about Charizard, the Pikachu Illustrator, these like common staple cards within the hobby. You really have to be deep into the hobby to actually even know about these cards. And the other thing with them is, like what you were saying, they actually have the picture of the winner on the card, which I think hurts the value. I don't think I'd ever want to own a card with someone's picture on it. Similar to like autographs, personalized autographs, or just autographs of whoever. When you have a personalized autograph, it hurts the value, because that autograph really only means something to the person who got that item signed. I think there's a kind of correlation there between that card with someone's face on it and an autograph with a certain name on it.
That is a good analogy. Like a lot of people would want a Rita signed Charizard, but if it says to Paul and your name's not Paul, like it has some amount of less appeal.
Yeah.
A picture of a random kid's face on it who won it, people would rather have Ash or Pikachu or Charizard or someone from the franchise on it.
Yeah, exactly. So the next question is from Michael Zingifus. Sorry, I definitely butchered your name there. But he asks, did you get the card off PWCC? And he is referring to the PSA 9 No Damage Ninetales, which we briefly touched on within the last podcast that we did. I ended up losing that auction, and I know who won that auction. I won't say who won it, but you'll find out eventually. But I ended up, there were 2 buy it now listings on eBay. So before that auction ended, I looked at both those buy it now listings. One was priced at 10,500. The other one was priced at 9,500. So I looked at both of those, picked out the better looking one that I thought, and added it into my watch list. And after I lost that PWCC auction, I immediately went and offered the seller with the buy it now copy. I offered him 8,000, which he immediately accepted, which was awesome. So I ended up getting it, getting one copy anyway. And I actually got it for $169.69 lower than what the PWCC auction went for. So that was pretty exciting right there. But yes, I did pick up another one for my collection, which you'll see a video on that at some point soon. Next question we got is from Stephen PFC, which I know you from Instagram. With the amount of cards being submitted to PSA and pop reports changing heavily, do you think niche areas are more wise to head down, i.g. errors? So I guess do you think more niche areas within the market are going to get more recognition?
As far as errors, I'm not a big error guy. I know you're the no damage error guy, but for me, errors, they don't have much appeal to me. I think they're certainly much more reasonable to pursue in an environment like this than cards that are in the backlog to high levels. Definitely just consider, like, whenever you're making a purchase, consider not only the availability today, but consider what may or may not be in the PSA backlog, and just tread lightly with certain cards. I mean, if it wasn't being graded 2 years ago, if it was hardly worth anything, and then it jumped to 3 to 4 figures out of nowhere, it might be substantially in the backlog, and so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of errors. I don't do too much with errors aside from the No Damage Ninetales, but I do like the idea of them. I do think they're kind of in their infancy, if you will. I think CGC coming along is going to be huge for error cards because they grade all those types of error cards. Plus, they're kind of forcing PSA to recognize and grade some of them. PSA started with the Ghost Pika, and then they went to a few others. I know they're grading the No Damage Ninetales now, so I think they're going to start. PSA is going to start grading some of the more like mass-produced errors, which is going to be big for the people who collect those cards. So I think there's a lot of room for error cards to increase in value. And I hope that's the case with the No Damage Ninetales too. So the last question we got is Gaming TCG. Great content, you two. Look forward to seeing more. The knowledge provided from these is severely underappreciated. I heard in this session Dan talk about a PSA 9 Gold Star collection, and that is exactly what I have been chasing for a while now. What are both your opinions on collecting PSA 10s versus PSA 9s, especially after the last year with prices exploding on vintage 10s that are hard to grade? My personal stance is for vintage, go for 9s, as that is basically pack fresh. While modern, I wouldn't touch anything that's not a 10, even though I know print quality hasn't been great recently. And these are cards for his collection. And then he says, thanks. You want to go first on that one?
Yeah, so I did, unfortunately, as I mentioned, sell off my PSA 9 Gold Star set, and it's not because I didn't like the cards anymore. It's just I was consolidating and going into something else. I ended up getting one of the World Championship Pikachus with the proceeds from that sale. So I made out all right, even though the prices went up a lot on the Gold Star 9s. 9s have always been something I preferred over 10s, just from a value perspective. For me personally, that's very subjective. I think you've got to go on a card by card basis if you want like an objective. Like, you're not going to get an objective universal 10s are better than 9s or 9s are better than 10s. It's card by card. It's what kind of deal you can get on them. I think one thing that I've historically done, again, collecting 9s, pinning yourself to one company and one grade is just less efficient in my mind than being more open. I know that some people like the uniformity and all that, but year after, like each year that goes ahead and prices going up, and I'm getting more and more to where like I'm finding the best value in 8s or solid binder copies that are near mint. So as far as best investment, sometimes it's 10s, sometimes it's 9s, but you gotta like the best return, what brings you the most pleasure. That's a very personal thing that you've got to just discover for yourself. But Gold Star 9s, it's hard to go wrong with them, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a big accomplishment right there. PSA 9 Gold Star set. That's a real nice set. But I would agree with that one. I think even getting down into like the PSA 8s, even those are really nice cards. Me personally, I built my first edition base holo set as PSA 8s just because I couldn't afford 9s and obviously couldn't afford 10s. So I went with an 8 set, and even those cards have experienced really good returns on my initial purchase. I know I forget what I paid for everything, but I know I paid like 2,500 for my PSA 8 first edition base Charizard, and that card's 20-ish thousand right now. 18,000-20,000, somewhere around there. So yeah, I think it's more so like you were saying, case by case basis, what you can actually afford. If you can't afford 9s, go down into the lower grades. Even I'd say like 7s, 8s. Those are still really good looking cards. Once you get down into like the 6s, 5s, 4s, that's when you really start noticing wear and that stuff. So if it's for something that you enjoy for your own collection, just buy what you can afford, what you enjoy. If you're talking from an investment standpoint, I would definitely stick with WotC 9s, modern 10s. You definitely want the best grade that you can afford, like what SM Pratt always says: older, rarer, minter, better. That definitely holds true when you're looking at it from an investment standpoint.
And one thing just to keep an eye out, again, just being open to like different grading companies. I think CGC 10s are, I mean, I've graded a lot with CGC already. You don't get 10s like you do at PSA. I mean, people say that it's been harder to get PSA 10s than it used to be, whatever, but it is certainly harder to get 10s at CGC than at PSA. And especially at auction, some cards go in CGC 10 for like not much of a premium, if any, over a PSA 10. So grabbing some of those can be a good option, because a card being in a CGC case isn't like a permanent thing. I mean, you can always cross grade down the line if you have to. Not that it's a guarantee that a CGC 10 will cross to a PSA 10, but just something to keep in mind.
I think you have a real good shot of a CGC 10 crossing to a PSA 10.
From my
CGC 10s are impossible to get.
Yeah, I've never tried crossing a CGC 10 to a PSA 10. I probably never will, because in my eyes it's a stronger grade, harder to get. But but I would think you would do well if you were to try that. And another thing, I mean, they mentioned vintage go for 9s as they're basically pack fresh. I've opened a lot of vintage and I've gotten a lot of 8s on pack fresh vintage cards. The further you go down the scale, the more variance there is. But I've got some beautiful 8s in my collection, and I've owned some in the past where it's like a few white dots, one white dot on the back being a little too heavy or whatever. And there are some beautiful PSA 8s. Like I said, there's more variance, so you will get some of them that are heavier on the hollow scratches and whatever, but that by the card, not the grade. That comes down to that.
Yeah, definitely. And then one more thing, not to get on a tangent with this question, but you with the CGC 10 and PSA 10, I don't know, not to put you on the spot here. I don't know if you remember the card we were talking about from Z&G Emporium's video when they were looking at the PWCC auction. There was one CGC 10 Charizard. I think it was an Evolutions Charizard. I forget though. But it sold for like, it was a CGC 10 and it sold for like 3 times the price of a PSA 10 Evolutions Charizard.
I don't know if it was Evolutions, but maybe it was. I definitely do. I do remember something like that though. Yeah. It went for a substantial premium, and he kind of seemed a bit surprised and like called attention to it, but that was interesting.
Yeah, I know. I was real surprised by that, because right when I saw it, I sent you a message asking if you had seen it.
Yeah.
So that's all the questions we got for this episode. Like I said, if you guys have any questions you want us to answer, or if you have any suggestions for video topics that you want us to go over, definitely leave them in the comments below, and we'll try and work those into one of our future episodes. But for this episode right here, we're going to be talking about different lessons and mistakes that we've learned over the years of running our eBay businesses or Pokemon businesses, whatever you want to call them. So we each picked out three mistakes or lessons that we've learned over the years, and we'll kind of elaborate on each of those as we go along. So if you want to start out with your first one there.
Yeah, so my first one, I started with the biggest one, and I think it's the most common one that I see and hear about, in my opinion, just from other people that I know. And so my first mistake when I started, it predated Pokemon. I started back in the day on eBay buying and selling coins, video games too, even video games and coins. And I did it selling what I had acquired over the years, kind of like just selling off old video games and whatever. And then I got to where, like, let me buy some collections and resell. I did it all on my personal credit card. I did it all out of my personal bank account, and it was a mess. That first year that I got hit with a 1099, I didn't even know what a 1099 meant. I didn't know what it was. It said IRS on it. It was kind of scary sounding, and I went to an accountant, shoved a bunch of papers in their face, and they're like, "What are you doing?" It was expensive to get it done right the first year, and it was very stressful. And going beyond that, like just making the paperwork side of it easier. Like I think a lot of people are doing themselves a disservice trying to avoid paying taxes, because a lot of benefits do come from, I'm actually getting into part of my second mistake. But so separating business and personal is this first one, and I'll get more into the second one after. But yeah, I actually go as far today. I have a business bank account and a personal bank account, and they're two entirely separate entities. I have personal credit card, business credit card, no mixing, no matching on any of that. I even have, so like I buy occasional household items and just oddball things on eBay, gifts for people. And like personally, I have a personal account for buying on eBay, and then I have the business account for buying and selling on eBay. I don't mix any of that. And that just come tax time, you pull your reports. You don't have to sort. You don't have to weed out, oh, this was personal, this was, it's just clean and nice, and it's all there. You don't end up with a paperwork nightmare. So I don't know if you have any personal experience with that same mistake or.
Oh yeah. So I actually, surprisingly, I started selling on eBay in 2009, and I went from 2009 till November of last year only having a personal bank account and credit card. I did everything with that.
Oh.
So I finally decided to open up a business checking account and get a business credit card. And that has made my life so much easier. Because like you said, it's just a matter of logging on to your online banking, printing out that form, and every single one of those transactions that you have is business related. Whereas in the past, it would be printing out those forms, highlighting which were business, trying to remember which were business. Because I'm terrible about that stuff. But yeah, definitely recommend separating business and personal. And then what I do now is, since I'm transitioning to full-time eBay, is I'll pay myself a certain salary and just take that money out of the business account, put it into my personal account. And so I don't touch my business account for anything personal related. I actually pay myself kind of salary, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's definitely real important there.
Yeah.
So my first one was I made this list yesterday, and yesterday it was a rough day yesterday. So my first two are very, very negative. But I said make a schedule for yourself and try to stick to it. Basically meaning more so, I guess it could apply if you're doing this as just like a side type of income, but it's more so geared to people who are doing this a little bit more than a side business. Try and make yourself a schedule where you have certain work hours and then certain times where you don't work. Because I've gone for the longest time where I just go doing constant Pokemon stuff from the time I wake up till the time I go to bed. And it's definitely taxing on you, and you get a feeling of burnout, if you will, where you just want to give up doing eBay and Pokemon. So I'm gonna try to set myself a schedule. I actually haven't done this myself, so I'm gonna try it out too. Try and set a schedule where I work something like 9 to 5 or maybe 6 at night, and then spend the rest of the night just doing stuff that I want to do instead of going through cards at night as well. But that was the first one I wanted to bring up too, because that's definitely something I'm going through and would like to improve upon.
I hope you'll still record the podcast with me at night.
that will still do after 9.
Yeah, I'm one of those day job kind of guys. I'm only doing this on the side, but I don't have anything firmed up as far as like I probably should, because I've been better in recent years because I have children now. So family time is family time, and I only do things after like 9 p.m. when the kids are sleeping generally. And I only do shipments once a week, even though it's a bit of a pain on eBay. I get so many questions. Hey, when are you going to ship this? But years ago, like I started back in 2014 into Pokemon, and I almost got burned out here and there, probably multiple times, because I'd put in my 40 to 50 hours at work, and then I'd put in 40 to 50 hours occasionally on Pokemon outside of it. So yeah, I think it's reasonable to, if and when you feel like you're getting burnt out, just to limit it. I mean, set strict boundaries on having your emails off after a certain point, having personal time etched out into your schedule. So I don't know if you want to transition into your number two.
Yeah,
Or
sure.
if you want-
I can do my number two.
Yeah.
Um, so my next one is another thing that I'm actually going through right now. You don't need to buy every good deal that you see. This would result in a massive backlog and get overwhelming. So I'm also going through this one right now, and it's definitely something that I'd like to improve upon. Where I did a video on this about a month ago now. That video where I recorded the bulk lot that I purchased from Diamond and Pearl through Heart Gold Soul Silver, and then that massive WotC bulk lot. It's like 30,000 cards total between those two lots. And I would say that was the point where I realized I had way too much stuff to go through. So it's definitely starting to get a little bit overwhelming in the sense that I want to be able to finish it and say that I don't really have anything to do during a certain day aside from packaging and answering emails, but it's just a constant grind of just sorting through those cards right now, which is it just gets to be tedious after a while. So even though you might see something on Facebook or eBay or whatever that seems like a really good deal, you don't have to take all those opportunities. I personally think it's better to buy one collection, sort through it, get it all listed, and then start looking for your next collection to purchase. That's kind of how I'm hoping to become going forward, is buy one or two collections, sort through it, list it all, and then start looking for my next collection instead of buy, and then start selling.
Never catch up. Yeah. Yeah. So my strategy has been to build a backlog that rivals PSA, and it's worked out well. It's a weird thing to think about because, like, I've generally bought way too much and never been caught up. And I still have things from years ago that I've not cracked into, totes and boxes. And so it's been like, it's a blessing and a curse because so much of it has gone up in value so much that I've made out well. But I do intend to, like, this past year, I've bought very few collections. I've been taking all the modern I get allocated and flipping through that, adding what I need to add. But as far as buying, I haven't bought like big collections, a couple here and there, but not like I used to. One, because I think the deals are a little bit harder to find, and two, because I do know like my backlog is too big, and I just Troll and Toad Evo is really, just to plug them again. they really helped me work through some of it, but that's definitely a good lesson. Because another thing, like you touched more on the time side of it, but like the cash side of it too. If you're buying every good deal you see and you really lower your liquidity and your cash flow, like you don't have the cash flow, you might buy a good deal and a good deal and a good deal. And then like the amazing deal, the once in a lifetime deal shows up and you don't have the cash to go for it. So from that perspective, it's an important thing as well.
Yeah, that's another really good point there. You definitely need to have the available funds to purchase those great deals, like you said, that only come up once every couple of years or so.
Yeah.
That's real important right there.
Yeah. I mean, if you buy a $2,000 lot that you can turn into 5 pretty quick, that's great business. That's a good thing. But if you buy 10 of them and that's all your cash flow, and then a $10,000 deal comes up that you could have turned into 50 or something crazy, and then you got to turn it down because you don't have the cash flow, then that could definitely be a big negative. So just keep that in mind, I guess. So my second one, I kind of partially got into it as I was talking through my first one. I merged them both in my mind because I made both these mistakes simultaneously from day one. So my second mistake was not setting up properly as a business from day one. I kind of did start it as more of a hobby and like a collection type thing. So it would have been tough to know from day one that I would have ended up profiting so much and having so much taxes to pay. But yeah, if you're doing this to make money, even if it's not your primary goal, if your primary goal is just to build a big collection and you're going to make money resulting from it, or you think you will down the line, registering with your state, registering with your county, collecting and remitting sales tax, it's actually gotten so much easier than it was years ago because eBay does it on your behalf. But I think so many people do themselves a disservice by not setting up properly as a business. They think they're saving. Oh, I'm not paying income taxes on it, I'm getting away with. But when you do things right, like I'm registered with eBay, items that I purchase for resale, I do not pay sales taxes on. I don't got to worry about doing some tricky PWCC vault thing to skirt the sales taxes. Or when you're a business and you buy things intended for resale, you do not pay sales taxes on them. You get the access to distributors, wholesale pricing. Right now that's tougher because they're not taking new internet accounts, only brick and mortar as far as I understand. But and another thing, years ago it used to be a little bit easier. It used to be 200 transactions and $20,000 to get the PayPal 1099. I know you're in Massachusetts. I think it's $600 there.
It was always a $600 limit for us.
Yeah, so certain states have had the treatment that everyone will be getting next year. So as far as I understand, I think it was baked into the one of the relief packages, the stimulus packages. 1099s will go out to anyone who does $600 annually on eBay. So properly registering as a business, doing it all on the up and up, it's really the right way to go about it. Potentially we might talk about this in a future video, but there are really, sole proprietorship is like what I had done from the start. There's more advanced and there's more extensive LLCs, S corporations that really, once you, if and when you do scale to a larger level, there's very large amount of benefits that you can actually get, as far as if you want to save more for your retirement, do different creative, not tax evasion, but tax avoidance, legal tax avoidance methods. So what are your thoughts on properly setting up as a business and doing it all on the up and up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would definitely recommend that. I do think one other point that I wanted to bring up was getting your sales tax ID number, setting up your business, and then even though you can't, you probably won't be able to get in with a distributor if you're setting up a Pokemon business and you want to get in with modern product. You probably won't be able to get in with a distributor right now, but even just getting your name out there, sending in those applications, they'll probably accept you. Or some might accept you, some might just deny your application altogether. But even if they accept you and they just don't allocate you, even seeing that you're consistently trying to order product, I think that would help you once this modern product craze dies down. They'll see that you've been consistently trying to order this product, and once they have more available, then they'll start sending you that product versus someone who waits until this craze dies down. You'll kind of get priority over that person.
Mm.
I think that's another advantage of setting up your business sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, like I mentioned, when on my point one, I started mentioning the whole 1099. I did get hit with a surprise 1099. This was back in 2012. I didn't get back into Pokemon until 2014. So thankfully, I worked through all that mess with a CPA and a tax attorney. Definitely go, every county, every town, every state, everything is different. So what we said as far as what the documents are called or where you get them done, like we can't just provide a one size fits all solution. You've got to go talk to somebody in your locality and talk to a professional and figure out the proper way to do it where you live.
even if you're just looking into it for now, quick Google search. That's how I did mine. Massachusetts, I know, was really simple to get your sales tax ID number. Anyway, it's just a form that you fill out online, and they email you a copy of your sales tax ID number, and then a couple weeks later they send you the official paperwork. But yeah, I found it all right through Google. So if you're looking into it, just do a quick Google search, find out what the requirements are within your state or your county or your town or whatever, and just kind of go from there.
Yep.
I think that was all I wanted to mention for that one. I had one more thing. I forget what that was though. I forget now. Did you have anything else you wanted to add for that one?
No, I think that's everything on my second one.
Okay. So my third one, my last one, is I'm kind of 50-50 on this one. And I'll tell you why. I said know the market that you're in inside and out. I think this is especially true for collectibles markets, more so than just your typical reselling eBay account. But with collectibles such as Pokemon, you really want to know the market that you're in. You really, in order to be successful within Pokemon, you really need to dive into the hobby and know what you're dealing with. You can't just be one of these people that we have today who are just buying modern products off the shelf of Target, Walmart, or whatever, and immediately flipping it on eBay to double their money or whatever. Those people aren't going to last once modern product becomes more readily available. It's going to be the people who actually have an understanding of the hobby. And one example that I wanted to bring up with this was going way back here, back in 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. I actually purchased a PSA 10 Shadowless Space Set Charizard. And at the time, I was more so into Pokemon for the resale side of it versus the collecting side of it. At the time, I did have a small collection goal, which I don't know if you could say small today. I wanted to build a PSA 10 Shadowless Space Set. Obviously, it was a smallish collection goal back then because outside of Charizard, the holos were $50 to $100 a piece. Even the Charizard, I paid $400 for, which at the time that was a lot of money for me back in high school. But the point I wanted to bring up with that is I bought that card for $400. I really didn't understand the market. I didn't know much about PSA grading. I didn't know anything about pop reports to look up and see the actual rarity of this card. So a couple years later, when the card had doubled in price, it was now $800-900, somewhere around there. I saw the fact that I was going to be able to double my money on this card, sell it for about $1,000, which at the time, again, that was a lot of money for me being in freshman in college at that point. So I immediately took the money and run, sold the card off. Where if I had been engaged with the hobby, knew the rarity of this card, I might not have sold it, and I might have still had it today. Today, that card's worth 80 to 100,000. So I definitely lost out big time with that card right there. But yeah, that was kind of the example I wanted to give there. I say it's more so if you're dealing with collectibles like Pokemon to actually really know the market. I think you can do decently well with like just flipping general household items, picking them up at garage sales or flea markets or whatever. If it's just like general stuff, like if you want to sell, I don't know, mouses or keyboards or something like that, you really don't have to be engaged with the market too much. It obviously helps if you have a understanding in terms of pricing and all that, but it's a lot easier to sell general goods than it is collectibles. That's kind of the points that I want to bring up there.
Yeah, because something like general items, there's not, to some extent, oddball things might have collectability and collectible value, but if you're just buying to resell instantly, you're just looking for, can I buy this and make a quick margin? But as far as your PSA 10 Shadowless Charizard story, anyone who's been in the hobby long enough has something that they can point to that they missed out on a 50x or 100x or something of that nature. I sold multiple PSA 9 first edition Charizards for $1,000 to $2,000 back in the day, but that was just part of my flipping larger collections, parting out larger collections, and keeping one of everything that I wanted. And I mean, all of those times, the proceeds from those sales were plowed back into something else to grow. So it's hard to, you can't really be too hard on yourself over stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody, I mean, some people might claim they are, but nobody fully expected what we've experienced over this past year. I mean, even the titans of the hobby, the biggest guys, you can go back and you can look at some cards that they sold shortly before they popped really big. I mean, I think a commonality between all the biggest guys is they do a lot of buying, but they do some amount of selling too, just consistently, and just buying and making margins throughout. I mean, you buy high, sell higher, buy low, sell higher, just consistently getting cash flow going. Other than that, I don't really have too much to add there.
Yeah, no, that was all I wanted to bring up with that one as well.
So I guess we're getting down to the final lesson learned and mistake, and this
better be a good one.
We talked a little bit before we recorded. This is an ongoing thing for me. Being able to let little things go, and even, I guess, slightly bigger things at times. So in my experiences, I mean, I've done tens of thousands of transactions on eBay, through PayPal, every which way. More than 99% of them will go smoothly. Someone clicks buy, they pay, I ship it to them, I never hear from them again. They come back, they buy more things down the line maybe. Perfect customer, perfect purchase to me. I buy it, they buy it, I ship it, it's done. Less than 1% of the time, though, something's going to happen. People are going to try to scam you. People are going to return empty boxes. People are going to swap out cards, or like it's rare, but all these crazy stories that you've probably read and heard about, they do happen. But even aside from like scamming, you're going to get some amount of nuisance messages. You're going to get some amount of people asking, what's the lowest you'll take? Asking, hey, can you send me 12 pictures and a video on that $2 card? I actually just want to bring up briefly a little bit of a cautionary tale that Josh Harris, it wasn't really a question, but it was more of a comment that I think ties in well to my lesson learned. So he sold a card and the buyer wanted to return it. He had the case decided against him. So basically he didn't accept return, which I don't either. And the buyer opened up an item not as described case. Generally speaking, you're going to lose those. You're going to lose those, and eBay is going to force you to accept the return, whether or not you accept them. In Josh Harris's case, he didn't agree with it. He fought it. He refused to send a return label. Well, what eBay does if you fail to respond to a case such as that, they fully refund the buyer, and they don't require that the buyer send the item back. So he was out a fair bit of money. And just tying it into the lesson learned, if and when you do encounter a loss, just take it, block the buyer, move on. Don't lose sleep over it. Don't stress over it too much. It's not a super common thing, but some amount of it's going to happen. And if and when you do get the empty box scenario, if you get one of the more nightmare scenarios, I mean, if you have a reputation built up, eBay has sided with me. I mean, occasionally sellers do win things too. And occasionally when buyers win, they're refunded, but not out of the seller's pocket, eBay will actually just refund it out of their own pocket as like a courtesy to the seller too. So that was kind of a long-winded rant, but let the little things go. Don't let one bad transaction spoil the 99 good ones, and just block and move on.
That's the best advice there. So I do want to say, echo what you said. 99.999% of eBay transactions go perfectly fine without issue. You constantly hear about these eBay horror stories because nobody ever talks about, yeah, someone bought something from me, I shipped it out, went perfectly. Nobody ever talks about that. The only time they talk about an eBay transaction is when there's an issue with it. So that's why the only stories you hear about are these eBay horror stories.
There's a big bias towards like negative news. Like anytime a plane crashes anywhere in the world, it's national news. But flying in a plane, like statistically speaking, you're way less likely to die than driving in a car. So that's, yeah, I mean, you're bound to hear the horror stories because people talk about them.
Yeah, exactly. And I've only I've gotten a lot better over the years at letting these little things go. I forget who I was doing. I don't know if it was us two talking about this or if it was me talking to another person about this, but I used to be terrible at letting the little things go. I would cause so many issues with problem buyers. But it doesn't do anything. All it does is piss that buyer off, and then you have to worry about getting a negative feedback or them telling their friends, "Hey, don't buy from this guy." So just let that little stuff go. And as far as the eBay case that you were referring to there, I don't know. It doesn't affect you too much. You can afford to have, I forget the number. It's like 10 or 20 of these on your account though, within a certain time frame. But it also, if you flat out refuse to acknowledge that return request after eBay decides it in the buyer's favor, it does count against you in a way, similar to if you purchase an item on eBay and then never send payment. It doesn't seem to affect buyers or sellers very much, but it does affect you in a small way. And you can only have I forget the exact number, but you can only have a few of those on your account before eBay will suspend your account for a week or two or a month, or eventually it'll become permanently. But so you do want to acknowledge those requests and respond to them and work the issue out with the buyer, because it affects your reputation. If you don't work the issue out with the buyer, they're more likely to leave you negative feedback. Whereas if you acknowledge the issue, resolve the issue, sure, they're not happy with the item that they received, but in the end, they'll probably still leave you positive feedback because you did work the issue out with them, and you helped them to resolve that issue. One question I had for you though too is, have you ever had one of those cases where someone tried to return an empty box or anything? I'm just curious on that.
Yep. Thankfully, it's never been on anything more than like $100, and just given my history with eBay, it's been like, okay, we'll just refund them at no cost to you. I think there's a threshold where they're just like, we don't care to deal with it. You paid us 20 times that this month in your eBay fees. We'll just let it slide.
Exactly.
But if and when, I mean, what I've heard happens is, say you sell a, like, kind of nightmare scenario, you sell a $5,000 item and they return an empty box. You've got to do like a police report in your jurisdiction, and you might have to do it in their jurisdiction too. Again, 99.999% of the people will not do that. It's not going to be an issue. It's not going to happen. And then of those that may, once like they get a call from a police officer, or once you tell them that the police are being involved, I mean, above $1,000, I think, is the threshold for, like, you're talking felony level. It's just not too much of a thing. And if you think it is, go back to our last podcast or our earlier podcast where we talked about platforms for selling. If you're selling a single item that would like break you to lose the proceeds from that sale, really consider consignment. Consider something lower risk to you. You do pay a little bit of a premium for it, but well worth it at times, just for the peace of mind too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I've actually never had an instance where someone returned an empty box or switched the cards or anything like that. So I was curious if you had. I
One
know
of
I know I've heard those stories before, but luckily it's never happened to me. Hopefully it never will.
I used to get a lot of, when I did it with video games, I used to get a lot of people just saying like it was dead on arrival. And I used to do like the cartridge video games, NES, SNES, N64. Those games were like notorious. You got to blow into the cartridge, pop it back in, and do it. So some amount of it was just people taking advantage of that. Like it didn't go the first time or some amount of them were just straight up scamming and or they'd buy one that you sent that you had tested and it did work, and they'd return a different one that had a weird sticker on it or Sharpie on it, so they'd return a different one. And I dealt with that more than, but some amount of it is the cost of doing business, I guess. And it's frustrating when eBay tells you that, but they may say it's the cost of doing business. And I will say that I've had some negative feedback over the years. More than half of them were because when someone started messaging me about a problem, I didn't do like the customer service type thing, like just going through the and I hate doing it. It kind of does annoy me. But yeah, whenever I try to like play a game with it, whenever I try to call out their absurdness or rudeness or whatever, or be a little rude myself, it doesn't lead to good places. So just
Yeah, exactly.
let the little things go for sure.
Yeah, no, the only issues I've had were ton of PWE issues. I mean, one or two a week where the person says they never received their item, which obviously I think like 90% of those are them trying to get a free card since they know the eBay system. I don't think there's hardly any that much or I don't think there's that much lost mail because I've never had an issue with items that I send with tracking. It's always with those PWE orders. But fortunately, that's even that's declined a bit with this eBay standard envelope with tracking. I still get them occasionally because the tracking will say out for delivery and it'll be like that for like a week, and they'll message me saying they never received their item, which I believe more of those than I did in the past when it was just me putting a stamp on it and sending it out. Yeah, so there's that. The only other one that I actually remembered it while I was talking or while you were talking. I forgot about this. I actually had someone in Canada buy it was a couple $100 worth of loose cards that I sent in a bubble mailer, and they were wrapped up in a team bag and then placed in a bubble mailer, and then with the address label on the bubble mailer and sent off like that. The buyer received that item and messaged me afterwards saying that a postal worker had opened the package, took the cards out, put the top loaders back in my team bag, and delivered it to him. So I immediately suspected this guy's full of it because it was a low eBay account, which I have a hard time trusting anyone with low eBay accounts. Which by the way, I just opened up a second eBay account, which I'm going to start selling different stuff on. So it'll be interesting to be in that perspective where I don't have any feedback.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that, I was suspicious of him, and so I messaged him saying, I'm really sorry to hear about that. I'm gonna have to call the post office and file an insurance claim. Someone from the post office might have to come to your house and ask you a few questions about this, how you received their mail or your mail, because it's a real big deal. This might end up with your postal employee getting fired. So there's probably going to be a big investigation with this. After I sent that eBay message, never heard from that buyer again. So you can kind of play with the system a little bit
Mhm.
if you suspect something like that's going on. Yeah, that was kind of the story that I thought of when you were talking there. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The threat of law enforcement or anything like that will get some people straightened out.
oh, for sure. But that's all I had. That's all I had for this week. Do you have anything else you want to mention?
No, I think one thing we kind of been doing that we didn't really touch on was like any notable buys, any notable sells from the in
Oh
the
yeah.
last 2 weeks. I mentioned before we started recording, I had a pretty big sale through my PWCC vault. I guess I'll disclose what it was.
You can
I
at least
sold
say the card that it was.
I sold a PSA 10 Mysterious Pearl that I had sent to the vault under that 3 free promo, and just discussing a little bit at the same time buys and sells. I mentioned it in a previous PSA return video, but one thing I like to do to kind of leverage my collection, like I saw that item as a collection piece. I didn't really see it as inventory. It was more of a collection piece, but I saw an opportunity. I sold the PSA 10 and turned around the same day or the next day. I bought 2 raw, supposedly mint copies of the same card for quite a bit less than I got from the proceeds of the 10 sale. So right now I have no other PSA 10 pearls, but one of these, if I'm lucky, one of these could turn into a 10 or 8, 9. I mean, either way, regardless of what the card does into the future, I have the potential to profit just in quantity of cards. I mean, if I hit a 10 and a 9, if the card goes down 90%, well, I turned a 10 into a 10 and a 9 in money. If the card goes up a bunch, well, I don't have the 10 anymore, but I might have 2 9s. It's just kind of a strategy that I like to utilize, especially during periods of low availability, which we're currently in right now. Oh, and I guess one other thing I think I mentioned in our last podcast, I was filling out my pre-release build and battle kit boxes. That's what this line is here. I finished that collection. The only 2 that aren't showing right now are Vivid Voltage and Battle Styles, which they're somewhere. I just couldn't dig them up in time to put that there. So that was another buying side thing. What about you? Anything? You mentioned your No Damage Nine Tails. Any other notable
Yeah,
buys and sells?
this has been a good week for me. Or past 2 weeks. I never really have anything super notable in terms of eBay sales, just because of what I actually sell. I could start bringing a list of everything I sell in 2 weeks if you want to
Yeah. Read out
rattle through
your
that.
read out your 1,000 transactions every.
No, but I did list my gold strip theme deck display case on eBay, and I put it up for 35,000 or best offer, something like that. It's really tough to value. I personally value it around 30,000. I'm hoping to get around 25,000 for it, but I actually had someone offer me 15,000. I counter offered 30,000. He offered 20,000, which I was tempted to accept, but I held firm at 27.5, and he declined that. But that was a potential sale that I almost had. That would have been a decent sale right there.
Yeah, that would be a hefty one.
But that one didn't work out, and I still got that one up listed. In terms of purchases, it has been a busy week for purchases. I bought the No Damage Ninetales for 8,000. I also bought I actually got them right here. These are Jungle Unlimited made in Belgium packs. So as you can see on the back of the pack, it's got this kind of long crimp design on the flap. It's got the circle Nintendo logo, the curved Wizards logo. So I picked this art set up off of Rusty, TCA Gaming for I think it was 1700 I paid for that set, but that'll be going right into my booster pack collection. I also bought 7 ETBs off of Facebook to complete my, or semi-complete my ETB collection. Now I have everything from evolutions through battle styles, and I don't know if I'm going to go for the earlier XY era stuff, because those are getting real expensive.
Yeah.
But the last one that I'm excited for was, we were talking about this earlier. I actually purchased the 8-card 2016 Pokemon League gym badge set. I purchased 5 pack sets of those. So each pack has 10 cards. So in total, there's 50 of those sets. And it also included, as the 9th card, which I don't know if this goes along with the set or if it's just a random promo card, but it also included the Pikachu XY202. There's 5 packs of those, so 50 of those cards, and even those cards are selling for $15-20 somewhere around there. But I picked all those up for was like $75 per set, which there's just the gym badge sets are selling for about $150. Then if you add the Pikachu, that's like $165, $170. So I was excited for that purchase. That was a really good one. And I'll probably sell some of those raw, send off some of them for grading. But that was about it, I think. A lot of stuff from my own collection, which was different than usual.
Mm-hmm. So I think
that's it for me.
Yeah, I think that about does it. Definitely feel free to, as we mentioned earlier, leave a comment if you've got any questions for next podcast in a couple of weeks. Feel free to suggest any topics you want to hear us talk about. We don't have anything slated yet, but I'm sure something will come up. And also, as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and if it brought you any value.
Smash that like button.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep, we'll catch you all later.